Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 166. We didn't plan this. Recorded on Friday, October 1st, 2021 from Zenata Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
All righty. I've had a rough week, Tyler. I've had a rough week. I had a crown prepped yesterday. Half my face is dying. And then I went to dermatologist. They burned everything off me. I don't know. This is my commitment to this show. I shouldn't even be here.
Be recuperating.
I know. I should be. I should just be, in bed, people serving me. But no, I'm here. I'm here for you, our listeners, everybody. I know. I'm a giver. All right. Announcements and event. What's that?
I said that's what they say. Someone has said that at some point.
I will not even go with that one at all. All right, let's cut to our announcements and events. We've got an upcoming webinar this week on Zoho Work Drive. That may sound boring, but it is not. We're going to go into some really cool features. If you're a Zoho One user, you need to consider Zoho Work Drive because there's just a whole lot there and really worth taking a look at all the way around. So, and with that, as always, you can go over to zenata.com/events and everything is there. By the way, Zoholics, Tuesday and Wednesday, October 5th and 6th. It's going to be Singapore time. So I looked this up. It's starting at like 7 o'clock Pacific time, 10 o'clock Eastern time, but they're actually going to do a virtual Zoholics.
Nice.
So should be pretty interesting. Yeah.
Did they just list that? That's pretty quick turnaround time.
Yeah, that's how Zoho rolls, man. They put this thing out with a week to go. I certainly hope we actually go live here in April. We'll see. A lot of good news on the COVID horizon today. Some antivirals that are just super effective. So now we're moving to that treatment phase,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's I think pretty good. All right. And with that, let's get into the news. So Zoho Sheets has added a new function called LAMBDA, not Delta. I believe LAMBDA is the next letter after Delta, isn't it?
I
got the Delta variant. There is a LAMBDA variant, by the way, of COVID. See, it all ties in together. You see how I did that?
It's full circle.
One thing to the next. I know, it's beautiful. Anyway, pretty interesting new function in Zoho Sheet. Tell us about it.
So basically, the LAMBDA functions here are to be used for calculations that you might want to pull multiple times throughout a spreadsheet. So for example, let's say that you created a sum in a spreadsheet to calculate your total revenue, and you might want to use that calculation to calculate your commission and then your sales after commission. And then maybe you want to use it to filter based on rep. And so you're going to reuse this function over and over again. Basically, the idea with the LAMBDA function here is that you can create and name that formula and then reference it elsewhere inside of that sheet. So rather than having to say, your sum of A2 through A100 over and over and over again, you can just name that sum as revenue and then call revenue in kind of a more user-friendly way in other calculations. So it's actually pretty nice. I mean, just for like day-to-day usability, there's tons of different times that you're going to pull a sum of something and then reference it all over the rest of the sheet. One of the extra nice things about that is, let's say that your sheet gets longer, and now instead of from A2 to A100, it's A2 to A200, right? You just need to update that in one place and change your function, and then everything else will kind of roll up off of that. It's kind of similar to if you were just to use a cell reference to that sum somewhere else. But as you might be reformatting your spreadsheet, moving things around, it's kind of a nice way to just park these values in a place that you can call on them later.
Yeah, I like it. I do have one question here, though. So in doing the mathematics on this, they're calculating a commission at 10%. And so they're doing, hey, it's revenue times, and they're doing 10 divided by 100. Now, wouldn't you normally just do times 0.1?
You surely could.
I'm curious about that. I looked at that,
my degree was in chem, not math, but I think the 10 over 100 should be about the same as 0.1 if you wanted to do it that way.
Yeah, I would just have always done it that way. I don't I'd have never seen it, represented that way. So maybe that's proper. I'm just I missed it. I don't know. All righty. And then we now have 1 year of Zoho TeamInbox. First in a long milestone ahead. We've not used TeamInbox. Have we used it for anybody?
No, it's kind of one of those tools that it seems like they released and haven't done a ton with. Oftentimes, if we find someone that has a use case where they need some of that internal coordination around email, we'll set up Desk. Now, that might be a side effect of a lot of our users having Zoho 1 or a lot of our clients being on Zoho 1. So we found even if you want to use it for like a sales inbox, you can still use Desk for that functionality and just get a little bit more than you get with TeamInbox. So we haven't found ourselves using it a lot, but it is nice if you just want a quick tool to be able to share and communicate about emails internally.
Yeah. So it looks like they are mentioning some of the other things they've done, response templates, they've been reporting, multi-channel notification, flexible sender addresses. So they're making improvements to it. And it seems to be coming along. I think you also really want to be on Zoho Mail if you're using TeamInbox as well, because it's kind of part of Mail. So anyway, good on you. And then Zoho Campaigns is now doing something super nice. It used to be that if you had a bounce, it would just show up under bounces. And so you really didn't know what the difference between your hard bounces and your soft bounces were. So once you turn this on, or after this update, they're now going to separate them out into hard bounce and soft bounce, which is helpful.
Yeah, pretty impactful, just because you want to process those bounces differently. Like if it's a hard bounce, you're pretty much done, right? At that point, that email address no longer exists, right? It might be time to remove that lead or contact from your system. Whereas a soft bounce, maybe you want to send them an opt back in mail or something that can still get delivered. Nice thing about this too is that they're also adding it to your signals. It looks as well like a lot of this is in the CRM, where they're showing a lot of these screenshots. Yeah. But if you are a user of signals in the CRM, you're now able to get a signal on a hard or soft bounce independently, right? So that maybe you want to notify the rep, hey, this soft bounce, or hey, this contact hard bounce, let's give them a call, right? And maybe see if we need to update their email address or something like that. Yeah. So nice little updates, because, a hard and a soft bounce are definitely different things, right? So being able to notify and process them differently is pretty important.
Yeah, some good stuff here. Well, I mean, if it's a hard bounce, campaigns will never even send to it again. They just take it off. So actually being able to get this back and maybe, be able to look at what's going on there. It's one of the hardest things is trying to rationalize, because campaigns doesn't really write back to the CRM with this information natively. It doesn't go back and look at the record and go, oh, there's a hard bounce and take it out or flag it or anything. You're constantly having to go into campaigns and go into your list in the CRM and do some rationalization there. So this is a nice little change. All right. And then moving on with Zoho news, you got excited about this one. The CRM is adding color coding to Picklists.
Yeah, so this one, they gave us a little teaser of this maybe about a month ago when they added color coding to the CRM meetings with a pick list. You could add a meeting type, right? And kind of color code things that way. Now that they've done it for one thing, they've kind of rolled it out here for a lot more. I don't see in here if it says a specific deployment date. So this may or may not be in your systems right now as you're listening to this. But basically what they're doing is enabling us to set different colors for basically any pick list value that's not part of a task, meeting, or call in the CRM. So an example here that they're showing is lead source. If you wanted to color code by lead source or by lead status, right? So that if you're looking at a list of leads, you can quickly at a glance kind of see the color coding around each of those. Of course, going to run for your deal probabilities as well, or your deal stages. And it shows up basically everywhere. So if you're looking at a record, you'll see the color coding. Yeah. If you're looking at it in a list view, you'll see the color coding. From the edit page, all of these different things are basically color coded across the board, which is huge. I mean, it's one of the common drawbacks of the CRM is that it's a little bit plain. And so the more they can do around this, the better. And one thing you actually highlighted there, if you're watching us on video, is that the color coding will also natively apply to reporting, which is pretty slick. So your funnel will kind of line up with those colors.
Yeah.
Last but not least there too, it looks like your wish is granted to a degree, and those color codes should also apply to Kanbans, which is great.
Yes. Prettier Kanban views, which I love. Now, if they would just fix the thing that I really want Kanban views for, which is tasks inside the CRM, we're good to go there. I know they're working on it. So
yeah, this is a really, really nice update. I love to see more color and design options in the CRM, just because, you know, it's nice to be able to, at a glance, get that information just based on the color.
Absolutely. And this is one, kudos to the marketing team on this one. But this morning, and I've been checking this out of it. So this morning I went into the CRM and this popped up. Basically, they're adding multiple scoring rules. So I had a little pop-up. I took screenshots of the little wizard that came along, sent them over to you, Tyler, and said, have you seen these before? No. So we got these added into the deck. We actually created a quick little blog post so we could put them together here. But I went to a couple other CRMs. I don't think they're there. So this may be just an early beta thing, or it might be on a phased rollout. It doesn't seem to be everywhere yet. And I guess that may be, Kevin, you're mentioning that you're not seeing color coding yet. It's funny when they announce something. Was there a date around that, Tyler?
I double checked the post. There's no particular date that they're saying it goes live. Could be one of those that kind of trickles out to people's systems here over the next little while.
Yeah, I think that Zoho Community Superstars get things last, Kevin. So that'll be rolling out later on for you there, buddy. Anyway, multiple scoring rules inside the CRM. So you have the ability to set up multiple rules for the same record. They've removed the score fields from the business card section. Thank you. And I don't know, this is kind of nice. So you can basically score around different things for the same record, which is just really useful, I think.
Yeah, and I think the last little thing they also added is they've made the workflow rules around scoring a little bit more intuitive. So previously they could only apply a workflow rule when their overall score went up or their overall score went down. I will say in the years I've been, building out Zoho, I have never used that workflow trigger because scoring rules are so generalized that you can't just, you don't often want to trigger a rule just because the score went up. You'd want to know a specific action took place. But being able to make those a little bit more specific based on saying if a specific scoring rule was to be affected, then run an automation makes that a lot more useful.
Yes. And I think our client, Jeff and Sebastian, you know who you are. Oh boy, if we had this a couple of years ago, what we went through on those scoring rules, this sure would have been extremely helpful, huh? All right. And then moving right along here, Zoho Desk Community Digest has come out. I went through this. I didn't see anything that we haven't already covered, but if you want to go take a look at this, kind of tells you all the updates that we've gone through. And by the way, talking about Desk, Tyler, I spent, you made that comment last week that it's very odd that many things that maybe should become features in Zoho Desk are actually released as marketplace apps. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Let me go dig deeper into that. And as a matter of fact, our pick of the week is something that clearly should be built into Desk, but it's yet another marketplace app. So we'll go over that one as well. Do you think it's just, you thought your theory was it's to keep it from being bloated?
I think so. I'm kind of guessing there because of a couple other updates they've made around Desk to improve performance, like the webhook callback time, the auto archiving of tickets to move them to a separate database to increase load speed. So that's my guess, is that they're thinking, hey, if you're not going to use customer insights, let's not have it pull that, query every time you open up a ticket, because those things do add up over time. The more and more that you're running, in the background. That's my guess, but I could be totally wrong about that.
All right. And then this is kind of interesting, and they do take quite a bit of time to explain it. But basically Cliq has now added do not disturb. And why do not disturb rather than busy? Well, you can say, you actually can set a timer for how long you want to be on do not disturb. And it is slightly different. And I do like it a lot. I think busy actually will even let something ring through, won't it? Once you still get the notifications when you're busy.
Yeah, the busy will
dings.
still definitely ring you through.
Yes. And in this one, you're not going to get any pop-ups, no sounds, none of that whatsoever. So that is just huge, because what
Yeah, and
I've
it's also
always had to do.
configurable to be automatic. So you can set up rules and say,
Yep.
specific days I'm always on do not disturb, which is really
Correct.
nice.
Yeah, it's good.
The last little thing they need here is scheduled messages inside of Cliq. That's one where I would love to see that, because I might get an idea, and it might be at 9 p.m. and I want to message it to someone, but I don't want to buzz them at 9 p.m. So I'll type it in and then save it for, the following day, so I remember to send it to that person. So I sure would love to be able to schedule, but this do not disturb kind of does the same thing. Or if everyone has this set up, you kind of message whenever the idea hits, and you're not going to bother someone while they're eating dinner,
Yeah. And I always had to go click the little sound. I just had to turn all sounds off. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, because that would be the only way to get Cliq to be quiet. So this is nice. Super nice. Glad to see that. Now, that is going to take us into a slew of mobile news. This always happens when iOS comes out with a brand new numbered release. And most of this has to do with iOS 15 and a lot of the features you can do with that. It is it seems more than iterative. This I finally got it on my phone. I put it on my iPad the other day. It's a lot to it. It's doing a lot more, becoming more Android-like as every day goes by. So we'll start with Zoho Desk iOS app adds task reminders, which seems like should have been there. I like it.
And this, I think, are specifically for push notifications, it looks like. So if you wanted to get a push, an hour before a task is due or something along the lines of that, right? You can now enable that within your Desk iOS app.
And then timers are now supported in Zoho Sprint's iOS app. So another kind of minor thing, but pretty good there. I don't think this has to do with iOS 15. I think this is just a nice little thing they've been working on.
I could see that as pretty big on like a iPad app as well. If maybe a developer has like their full console pulled up on their main device and is kind of going through their tasks on a separate device, starting and stopping timers. I could see a pretty significant use case for that one in sprints.
Yep. And in other Sprint news, you can now have work item followers. And actually, this isn't mobile. This got kind of thrown in here. So you can now have, you can add followers to a sprint that you are working on.
Why not?
Why not? It's nice. Well, I think, you want to follow. I think that's a great idea, actually, just to be able to follow something. So you kind of, you maybe.
Yeah, you might have a particular product manager who really needs that feature, right? That you're building out in a sprint, so you can have them follow it, even though they're not going to be assigned any of the tasks.
Yep. And kind of cool, screen sharing functionality is now supported in the Zoho Meeting Android app. So got to have it. Let's just say it. That's one of those things. If you've got a mobile meeting app, you need to be able to share your screens. So
is that available on iOS? Do you know?
It
off
is.
The top of your head? Okay.
It is. Yes. So this is good that they got this in there. So good to the Zoho Meetings team. They kind of continue to improve that across the board. And then moving on with more mobile news, Zoho Projects calendar update for iOS. So basically you have kind of a cleaner looking calendar.
Yeah, it looks like it's actually pulling onto your oh no, that's inside of projects. Okay.
That's inside projects.
It looked for a second like that was your native like Apple calendar. But yeah, that does look a lot cleaner. I can tell they took some inspiration from the iOS calendar for how that looks.
I mean, maybe it could be that there's there's an API for that or something, right? Or there's an SDK that just pulls in the Apple calendar, because you're right. It definitely looks like the Apple calendar. And of course, widgets. I do like the widgets. So nice improvement all the way across the board for Zoho projects for iOS. And Bigin is now on iOS 15 and iPad iOS 15, and has added all of the things you would want to see in Bigin. So,
very nice. Good little plug here in their imagery for Ted Lasso. Yeah, I was going to say, haven't seen the newest episode yet, so don't say anything, or I will leave the podcast.
I won't. But you've got to get on you threatened to quit Zanata if we spoiled it for you this morning. So I don't even know. It's getting kind of serious over there. Advantage of being on the West Coast is it drops at 9 p.m. on Thursday night, because that's technically it drops on Friday, but it drops on midnight is when it really drops. So, Cody, why? So Cody spoiled it. Everyone dies, because that's how Ted Lasso rolls. It's kind of a downhill like that. Right.
Yeah, I can see it.
Anyway, so you've got nice pipeline views, widgets, all kinds of cool stuff for Bigin. I like it.
Yeah, it looks like a cool one there too is dictation.
Yeah.
Live text as you're just kind of going through things. That's pretty slick there. Yeah, Zoho is always really quick to jump on all of the new features available with iOS. I remember when they improved the PDF scanner on the phone that was kind of native to iOS. It might have been 12 or 13 maybe. And the next week, every single mobile app had an update to take advantage of that. So they're always really quick about updating their apps to the best and brightest there.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I was reading the forums yesterday, and I saw a really nice Bigin use case. So it's a company that has about 800 people, and they want 100 of them on CRM Plus, and then they're going to put 700 of them on Bigin.
Wow.
Because all they have to do is they just want to be able to go in, add a note, look at a record, do that kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to get them down. It was a pricing discussion, right? Around, hey, we want Bigin for $7 a person or something like that, which I think is almost its price anyway, isn't it?
That's not much.
Yeah, to try to get it down. So, that's kind of the use case we were. We were always saying, hey, you got guys in the field, they're in sales, and you put them in there as well. But they would, if you got Zoho 1, everybody's got a license and you're paying for it. But this is a really interesting use case for something like that, and one that I think probably what Bigin was made for, really. All righty, and in-app purchase feature is now supported in Zoho CRM iOS app. I am baffled by this because they have not gotten rid of the 30% yet, correct?
Well, it's in the courts right now, isn't it? I know that Epic Games sued them over the ability to do non-Apple transactions through there.
The ruling from the bench was you're not a monopoly, but you have to put a link in your app that allows people to also go out and apps are allowed to say, oh, by the way, you can also buy it here, right? Maybe for less, whatever they want to do to entice people to go over. That's under appeal right now. So, that means that basically, Zoho's paying that 30 points right now, I would think. So kind of interesting. 30 points for life. So, all right. And with that, we have a couple little things that I'm not even going to really bring these up, but they added HIPAA compliance to Qntrl for iOS and Zoho Sprints for Android. So both of those got HIPAA compliance. Just quick little announcements they put out. We're seeing they've really been putting a hard push on HIPAA lately.
They have, yeah.
Everywhere. So, and with that, Tyler, what's our implementation of the week?
So yeah, this implementation here, I actually had a different one put in up until about 15 minutes before our podcast here, where Josh messaged me and gave me a better one. So this is driven from the CRM, And it's basically using the native, mail merge ability to create a proposal. Oftentimes we're creating this with Deluge just to make it faster, but I wanted to highlight that you could do this with just your standard mail merge, and click through the options and kind of do it that way. And so one of the features inside of that mail merge that we've been using a lot lately, ever since they released it, is the ability to do if-then statements based on your CRM data. So a simple example would be if a deal was if it was for a first-time sale versus a repeat customer, maybe you would want to include different language inside of your proposal. And so in mail merge, you can create sections that are basically wrapped with an if-then statement. So you tell it, when I create this from a deal, check this field. And if option A is selected, show this. And if option B is selected, show this other stuff. And that, of course, also works when you're creating these with a deluge function. And so in this case, basically the idea was, based on some information in the account and in the deal, different subscription plans should be available to a potential customer. And so what the team did is they basically created a bunch of these different if-then statements and actually wrapped them around images that have dynamic URLs that redirect out to those subscription plans. And so as you're going through and creating this proposal, just based on all of this various information in that deal, once you click that create proposal button, it knows which images and which subscriptions it should show just based on that CRM data. And then the cool little thing at the end here is that once that user clicks on the link or the image to go to that subscription page, it's actually going to pre-fill that page with information from their deal. The account name, the user's name, the email address, right? All that information, which actually makes a big difference because then when they sign up, you're going to get a much cleaner connection back to that CRM record, and you're going to be less likely to have a duplicate account, right? Where you might have us down as Zenata Consulting, you send me a subscription link and I just type in Zenata, right? Well, now Zoho is going to treat that as a different company. But if you pre-fill it with Zenata Consulting for me, I'm not likely going to change it. And so that connection is going to be made a lot more cleanly. So there's kind of two pieces to this. The big one there is just being able to dynamically show and hide these images with custom redirect links. And then the other side is just a quick little tip about subscriptions is that, you can actually pre-fill those and send them out to people. So they're kind of just ready to put in the card, say yes, and not have to tweak any of that information.
And that solves the subscription duplication problem too by doing that.
Yes.
Super nice. And the tip of the week, I actually cover if-then statements inside mail merge. So this kind of goes in together, by the way. So
wow, well, that's good. It's almost like we planned it. Let's lie and say we did,
but we literally didn't. I know that's classic. All right, and that brings us to this week's read. This is a short one, but I kind of love it. It's over at Destination CRM, which is the website for CRM Magazine. And basically, this is by E.J. Freni, and he is talking about how poor data quality leads to wasted marketing dollars. And boy, oh boy, is this true. And, we talk about this all the time, keeping your data clean, keeping it up to date. Quotes an interesting Forrester report here that says 21 cents of every dollar of media spend is wasted because of insufficient data quality. I believe that. So, there's nothing really new in here. I just think it's, I just love pointing it out over and over again that please pay attention to your data. Please keep it clean. There's so many ways to do it.
And I think this is a big one. A couple little tips that it does here is, make sure that your data are not just in these little silos, right? That you have a holistic system where you can pull various different data points about a particular person. Making sure that your definitions are clear so that if I say source and you say source, we're talking about the same thing, which is a very, very common thing that gets really tricky as things get more complicated. And then kind of lastly, and this is part of the first one as well, but just make sure you have a single source of truth so that if you're going to send a marketing campaign to stage 4 prospects, that every single system can define that appropriately.
Yeah, good stuff. So anyway, quick little read. I recommend you take a look at it. All right. And then that brings us to new on Zenata.com. We've got a couple things. We've got a case study, one of our favorite clients, ICC Innovate. Anyway, they gave us a nice little case study. We did some really nice stuff for them. And thank you, Susan, for the lovely quote. But this was a fun one. And
yeah, it was. It was actually a pretty interesting one in that they originally were going to build a lot of this stuff out in Recruit. And then the team found that there were just some specific pieces that, you needed a little bit of input from an outside stakeholder. You needed a certain type of form filled out. And so the team was basically able to build out I don't want to say improved version of Recruit over in Creator, but just a more custom built version that could still be deployed externally as a creator portal. So it's a really cool one. That kind of took Creator in a different direction for like an ATS or recruiting system than how we kind of normally use it.
Yeah, really cool stuff. So again, thanks to ICC. Thank you, Susan. We appreciate that. And then we have an article, follow these 11 pro tips to make shift scheduling easier. And believe it or not, we only pimp out Zoho shifts at the very, very end of this, but pretty nice article on, how to schedule it out, how to do it. It's kind of interesting. I've been living this lately in my household. So it's some interesting stuff here. So anyway, but Zoho Shifts, I played around with it. I like it a lot. I do.
It's a nice, simple tool. It's one of their creator apps that they've deployed here. You can kind of see the telltale signs of the creator UI. But for what it's supposed to do, which is you've got people, you've got shifts, match them up. It does that really cleanly. Yeah.
Tina, if you're listening, you need to take a look at this. I think it'll make your life a lot easier. All righty. And then with that, let's get to the pick of the week. My followed tickets for Zoho Desk. So this is like we were talking about. Interesting, Tyler. This, 8 ratings, almost all 5 stars. You follow a ticket, you'd probably like to have a custom view. And I think the only way to get it is with this plugin. I think maybe the only way to follow tickets. It's very, very strange, but it's a nice little plugin. The thing that cracks me up is it has its own logo. So it's got its own logo. It's I think something you would probably want to drop into.
It looks like it makes a new tab inside of Desk as well. You get kind of a whole UI for it. Interesting.
It does make a new tab called My Followed. And it looks like it's not loading for some reason, these screen images, if you're watching this on YouTube, but really simple install, makes a nice little tab. You can follow tickets, and the ratings on this are, except for this one kind of bad one, you kind of got most people tend to like it quite a bit. So I would give that a look and see what you think. All right. And that brings us to our tip of the week. So pretty straightforward, this one, setting up mail merge if statements. It's kind of like what we talked about. And Tyler, in this one, I actually kind of take it through the entire, basically our proposal. So if you're watching us on YouTube right now, basically we talk about, when we're doing a proposal, there's 50, 60 Zoho applications. And people are talking to me about, well, I want Zoho 1, and we want to do something with CRM, and we want desk, and we want analytics, and we want this, and we want that. And we go through and we select the various applications, and then it automatically generates the proposal. Now, we don't take it to that instantly send because everybody's different. We have to go in and make some edits, but boy, does it do 90% of the heavy lifting and just building out the contracts, building out the sections, dropping in the images, doing all that kind of stuff. So this is how to build out it. Then the step sheets all the way through the entire process of building out a proposal. It starts with the CRM and how you're going to want to set up the CRM to make the whole thing work, and all the various fields you're going to want to set up and how it can all go in. So, and it's real world. I didn't even bother building out a dummy account on this one. So just go check that out. And I think I would say that since this was released, the if then feature, we've really, no need for, we've replaced Proposify.
We used to use some form stack as well. It was always the one thing that the CRM mail merge didn't do. And so if we had a
Right.
client who needed that conditional logic, we'd always boot it over to FormStack and do it there. Formerly WebMerge, if people are familiar with that tool. But now, I mean, with the combination of Deluge and those if-thens, I mean, we've not found much of a need to use any other tool other than mail merge at this point. It's really powerful. And again, we promised we didn't plan this, that our implementation and this lined up. Just the stars aligned.
The implementation's cool because it's dynamically adding links into images, and I believe you can even now dynamically add images. I know we did that, so that's the other one we need to talk to Josh about. You can dynamically place an image based on a URL, correct? Yes, we did. We did it in email. I would think you could probably do it in here. We're going to have to look at that. All right. And that brings us to our questions Q&A. So I love this. We're doing our YouTube Q&A. So Dwayne wants to know, are there any more webinars after this one for Zoho people? No.
Not that we've done. Zoho should have a bunch, but this was the only one that we've done on our side.
It's the only one we've done. We're thinking about it. Zoho people is just a great application, but man, is dense the right word, Tyler?
It is
full
dense.
Featured.
It's very, very dense.
It really is, and it requires such a level of expertise to properly set it up and do it.
You need a really deep HR knowledge. You know, like you need a very, very deep knowledge of HR processes and procedures to really be able to dive into it.
And while I like it and I love it, most of these kinds of HR applications are fully integrated with ADP and Paychecks and benefits companies, and you name it. They've got this full integration that goes across the line. And Zoho people doesn't have it yet, so they're going to get there. But I think that's one of the things that holds it back just a little bit. Anyway, next question is, I don't see the Compose tab under emails for my CRM. So what this gentleman is referring to is I put out a how to set up email signatures inside Zoho CRM, new for 2021, because they've moved it. But it appears that this is something that is being rolled out. It seems to exist on about 50% of the CRMs that I've seen. So Central Sales, I apologize, but eventually this tutorial will make sense because they're basically moving email signatures into the email section under settings, and you can have multiple email signatures based on emails, all sorts of things you can do, but it just doesn't seem to exist right now for a lot of people. So hopefully that will come soon. All right, Tyler. And we have Extreme BHP. He watched our Zoho Desk Beginner's Guide, how to get tickets into your Zoho Desk implementation. And he says, once the ticket's been created, where do they sit? I don't see unassigned buckets in Zoho. So what's he missing there?
Inside of Desk, you should have a view for unassigned open tickets as one of their defaults. They would also go into like the all tickets or the all open tickets as well inside of your ticket view there in Desk. So it kind of depend maybe on how they're being created or what module you're looking at it from, but you want to go to views on the left-hand side of the page, and then to your little drop down kind of in the top left area to grab either unassigned open tickets, all open tickets, kind of one of those views to see the newly created ones.
Yeah. And then from the chat room, Kevin wants to know, when pushing data to Zoho Forms from CRM, do you run into URL encoding issues? Multi-line text field populates with special characters.
And this is where, Kevin, basically you're saying, you're sending like an email from the CRM that links them to a Zoho form that's been pre-populated. So you're passing like a parameter with that multi-line data. Yes. Yeah, that's what you're doing. I've not seen that one where it's encoding it, the classic like %20 rather than a space right into the multi-line. I've not seen it myself. It should be able to parse that back. Works fine on desktop, but when you're in the mobile app browser, it pulls with those encoded fields. Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah, we
Let's
might
take a
want to
look.
run that one up to Zoho and actually see they probably want to know that it's doing that, because that wouldn't be the expected behavior.
All right. And that looks like it's it for questions. But guess what? We've got more Cobra news. Not really. But also on the YouTube channel, CKP Creative loved our Cobra bit last week, and he just wanted us to know there's even more Cobra news. Cobra Kai season 4 has a release date, and it's going to be December 31st,
Nice.
2021. So
I think I'm
anyway.
halfway through the 3rd season of that one. I kind of liked it. I don't know if you ended up watching Cobra Kai.
I watched I want to say the first season when it was just it was a YouTube thing, right? Now it's like a Netflix thing.
Is it?
Yeah,
I didn't know it was on
a,
YouTube first. That's funny.
Yeah, I think it was just a YouTube show, and then it kind of went over to Netflix. I watched, and they were like just short little bits. I thought it was hysterical, but yeah, evidently it's season 4 now. I'll have to get with the program here. All right, and with that, it's a wrap. Thanks everybody so much for listening and watching our show. And if you have any questions or comments, just head over to zenata.com and drop us a line.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. As always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.